Good morning.
Good morning.
It's the first time somebody said good morning, Ina. Leave it to you. And thank you this morning to Elena for our music. My name is Ina McBride, and I am your worship associate this morning. I'm part of a team that's working to bring you this service wherever you may be. As Unitarian Universalists, we don't all subscribe to a single creed, but we do have a shared set of values that is centered around love. One of those values, pluralism, says that we are all sacred beings, diverse in culture, experience, and theology. Another value is justice. We work to be diverse, multicultural, beloved communities where all feel welcome and can thrive. And then my favorite, equity. We declare that every person is inherently worthy and has the right to flourish with dignity, love, and compassion. Here at Community, we welcome people of all faiths and of no faith in particular. Whoever you are, wherever you are on your journey, you are welcome here. Now, this morning, we are so privileged to have with us our guest speaker, the Honorable Mihaela Plesa, Texas State Representative of District 70. Mihaela is the daughter of Romanian immigrants and was raised right here in Plano. She attended the University of North Texas and SMU before opening a small business in the fashion industry. In 2016, she left to become a staffer at the state legislature, which led her to run for her hometown seat in House District 70, becoming the first Democratic state representative for Collin County in 30 years. After her first session, she was named the Legislative Study Group Freshman of the Year, and after 2 campaigns in one of the most competitive state house seats, Representative Plesa became the vice chair of the House Democratic Caucus. Since then, she has received the Outstanding Democratic Woman Award from the Texas Democratic Women, and most recently became the vice chair of the Pensions, Investments, and Financial Services Committee in the Texas House of Representatives. I know we are all really looking forward to her message later in the service. This morning, our call to worship requires some congregational participation. You know how I love doing that to you. When I pause and direct you, like that, your response is, justice is our prayer. Shall we practice just once? Words, 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 words. Justice is our prayer. Very good, thank you. Here's our call to worship. Spirit of all that moves among us and through us, help us to let love lead. Help us recognize that polarization can also be understood as passion. Passion to build something better that holds all of us at the center. Help us to imagine and to foster a world in which we listen more than we talk, where our priority is to learn as much as we teach. A world in which we find ways to connect across the chasms of difference, making space for revelation to emerge. Justice is our prayer. Spirit of love, help us turn toward love with the world, with each other, with ourselves, all the same thing at its core. Let us extend grace within our movements and between our movements, less sure, more cautious, wondering together what is possible. Spirit of all that is open and hopeful, guide us in building a larger tent, not solely Republican or Democrat, independent or uncommitted. Justice is our prayer. Let us learn, too, from our ancestors, from generational pain and generational survival. the movement of the generations building across the difference, something better, larger, more encompassing that can hold all of us. Justice is our prayer. Let us not be just flags, potent though they are in declaring our beliefs, and yet impeding our ability to recognize humanity across differences. Justice is our prayer. Spirit of hope, Spirit of all that is yet possible, lead us away from the false separation that the only truth is ours, that anything less is incomplete. Lead us instead into the discomfort of learning from youth, from adults, from activists, from elders, from those we cherish and those we find wanting. Justice is our prayer. Lead us to the love that holds us all and is with us always, the love that can help us through the messy and necessary life-altering work of building movements across beliefs, across differences, a change that can endure. Justice is our prayer. May it be so. Let us worship. Democracy is not just about voting, not just about forming a political system. It's not just about participation, and it's not just about ensuring the rule of law. Ensuring the rule of law. That's a whole different meaning, isn't it? But sometimes that's true too. Democracy requires that from each of us. It asks us to do our part, for if we envision a government of the people, by the people, and for the people, where the government's authority stems from the sovereignty of each individual citizen, then what is central is the citizen, not the government. What is central is our participation in our systems. There are many important documents that we are willing to fight to defend, but have we ever actually read all of them for ourselves? Like, for instance, the Articles of Confederation that replaced the first Constitution of the United States in 1789. How many of us even knew that the Articles of Confederation even existed? Well, I mean, I'm not asking for hands, it's okay. How many of us knew? But this, by the way, is not the same thing as the Confederacy. That is a completely different thing. Or maybe the Bill of Rights, also known as the first 10 amendments to the Constitution. Do we all know what is defined and laid out for us in the Articles? I feel that it's my responsibility to educate myself about what I am willing to fight for, to make sure that I know what I am accusing another person of not knowing or not upholding. I need to read them and take pride in the fact that I know what is contained within them and that it was all written for me. You may have noticed in the basket here, I've placed a bunch of books and materials donated to our church library. Among these very special materials are our Constitution and the amendments. Because they contain knowledge about our country, about our laws, how we want our government to serve the people, all of these materials are being donated and available to you to read. And of course, all of these things are available online too, if you take the time to look them up and read them. The Constitution of the United States is a remarkable document, being the foundation of the world's first secular democracy. Established in 1788, it clearly departs from the age-old concept that certain people are just born to rule, like kings and emperors and queens, for instance. As Americans, we are fond of saying, and I know you've heard this, probably growing up you heard it a lot, if you want to, you can grow up and be president. Anybody can grow up to be president of the United States. And this is so true, and sometimes very tragic. Saying no more. Another common saying among Americans, often voiced at the top of our lungs, is, "That is my constitutional right." And it's uttered so often that it has become virtually banal. And like many repeated slogans, most people who say it really don't have any idea what they're talking about. Myself included, sometimes. I'm not proud of the fact that, and I bet a lot of you can relate, that I have never actually read the entire Constitution for myself, nor many of the other founding documents. Oh, I've read excerpts. I've heard talks about them. I've even heard quotes of them by famous speakers, but I have not actually read them for myself. I'm sure it's not action-packed, fascinating reading, but I do feel like I have a responsibility to read it for myself and to know what it says, not what someone told me it says, especially those someone's with an agenda to sway my opinions to their views. But for me, I want to know that I know what I know about the things before I start pointing fingers or claiming, excuse me, that something is my constitutional right, or that someone else is doing something that's unconstitutional. I need to know for myself. I need to be knowledgeable. So here they are. They're right there, and they're online. I've made myself a promise to read them all, and I invite you to do the same. The preamble sets the stage for the Constitution. It clearly communicates the intentions of the framers and the purpose of the document. And the framers found a way to agree at least on the following basic principles. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your patience and my long-winded introduction to this, our reading for today. I give you the preamble to the Constitution for the United States of America. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. Our stewardship this morning, the stewardship moment this morning is the gift of education. Please welcome Justin Schaper.
I have no idea how to follow that up. So I was asked today to speak a moment about the gift of education, being involved in the RE program here. Education is a funny gift because it is never just given by one person and received by another. And thank you, Anna, for bringing the gift of education up here today with this material. This was perfect tie-in here. Most of you know that I facilitate adult RE here at the church. I do not consider myself a teacher, but a student first. The adult RE program here has truly been a gift to me, one from which I benefit every week. And for that, let me say thank you to everyone here, whether by supporting the church financially, participating in the adult RE program, providing guidance and counsel, of which I've gotten much, or just by being part of this supportive community. You make the RE program possible. When we think of stewardship, we of course think of money, and usually time and effort as well. Education involves and requires all three. Money is required for curriculum, location, and technology. Time is required of the participants. Effort is needed to plan, organize, and engage. This community continues to provide those in abundance to RE. Here, education is not just a class or lesson, but a process, often a messy one, particularly our intergenerational sessions where paper, glue, and scissors often make an appearance. Over the last year, we've made paper lanterns, snowflakes, prayer wheels, balances, and a flock of rather unique-looking paper cranes. We in nowhere matched those that were given to us. All with something to reflect or consider as we work together, young and old alike. Here at CUUC, we collect new information, share new ideas, reconnect and re-examine old ideas, and find meaningful ways to engage with the world and with each other. In doing this, we explore our own lives and the lives of those around us. Participation in education can happen for many reasons. As kids or youth, parents may not give you much of an option, but as adults, our reasons for participating can be varied. Some it may be out of curiosity, an intellectual itch, or that our spouse is in choir. So those of you widows and widowers, thank you for thank you for hanging out with us. My own reasons include academic interests, but also to further my own spiritual journey. As I shared with the class this morning, you guys have become my own personal support group in that effort, so thank you. Here at CUUC, we think of education as a key and essential right. This can be seen and supported in the work we do at Barron Elementary, God's Pantry, and with the Human Rights Initiative, and with so many of our other activities. Education is embedded in all of them. Knowledge is power, and everyone should have the right to access it regardless of circumstance, including income, race, gender, sexual identity, or immigration status. Now more than ever, I believe education has a critical role to play in how we engage. It is up to us to both give and receive this gift. Thank you for your collective and individual and ongoing stewardship.
Thank you, Justin. Please welcome the Honorable Mihaela Plesa.
Are you going to leave the stool for me too?
Yes.
Okay.
It's because of the shoes.
No, I'm good. Thank you. Good morning, everybody. It is a profound honor to stand before you today in this sacred space, where the principles of love, justice, and community intertwine. As we gather in our commitment to one another and the world around us, I'd like to take a moment to reflect on the state of our democracy. More specifically, the state of our democracy here in Texas. I'm going to talk a little bit about the working of our state legislature, and most importantly, what we can do, most importantly, together, to protect the democratic values that we hold dear. So my staff wrote some stuff, but for anybody that's heard me speak or knows me, sometimes I just shoot it straight. So let me first start by kind of introducing myself. Thank you for the great introduction. My name is Mihaela Plesa, and I proudly represent the constituents of House District 70 in the Texas House. Before I was vice chair of the Pensions, Investments, and Financial Services Committee, before I was vice chair of the House Democratic Caucus, before I ran for office and beat Republicans twice in general elections in Collin County, before I was a small business owner, I was a citizen, kind of like that book that we need to read again because it might be banned soon. And democracy was kind of like the first word I ever learned as a kid. I'm the daughter of immigrants. My grandparents and parents came here from 2 war-torn countries. On my mother's side, Romania, and on my father's side, Germany. So I kind of grew up learning what fascism and communism look like and how lucky I was to win the birth lottery, to be born not only in the greatest country in the world, but in the best state in that country, Texas. And my family knew that in the diverse community that I grew up in, right here in Plano, Texas, that they could speak to me in Romanian at home, and that the strong public education system that they sent me to would teach me English. And I was an ESL kid. And I was an ESL kid in the early 90s, so there weren't that many Romanian teachers at Plano ISD. So that's how I learned Spanish. I say that all to say that I grew up under the governor of Mark White and the investments that he made in public education in the great state of Texas. And I grew up in a community that knew that Romanians were just as important to the topography of our landscape and our economy. And my family actually started the Greek Orthodox Church in Colleyville. So if I make any references to religion today, it will probably be from that perspective that I grew up in. So I say that all to say that in Proverbs, we are reminded that where there is no vision, the people perish, right? And I say this statement, it resonates deeply with me because that's what I think of when I think of the state of our democracy, right? Democracy is not merely a system of governance. It's a trust. It's a pact that we make with each other. And that requires everyone's participation, not just mine as an elected official, but more specifically yours as a citizen. That was a good setup for my speech. Thank you. As we look at the state of democracy in Texas, we must recognize both the challenges we face and the opportunities that lie before us. The 89th legislative session has revealed that there are significant tensions within our state party. We see that reflected in the battle for public education currently. How many of y'all have heard of the governor's intent to pass an, I'm gonna get this right, ESA, a savings account for education? I am more familiar with this as a voucher, a handout, a coupon. I was gonna try, yes, a scam. And, you know, we can say that because where this has been implemented in our neighboring states, more specifically in Arizona, we have seen these proposals fail our children. And the reason why the battle is so fierce in the great state of Texas is because we educate one of the largest populations of children in the nation. Our children are the workforce of tomorrow. They don't just contribute to the Texas miracle, they are the American dream. And so that's why this fight is so consequential. And that's why we built a bipartisan coalition last legislative session to defeat this scam, to defeat this handout to the wealthy. Because it is not just a Democrat issue. It is not a Republican issue. It is not a Plano issue or a rural issue. It is a Texas issue. It is in our state constitution, which, how many of y'all have read the state constitution? Lucky for you, I've read parts of it. And it says in our state constitution under Article 7 that we have a constitutional duty to fully fund public education in the great state of Texas. Our forefathers saw the need for an educated citizenship. Sorry, I'm ESL, you guys. Sometimes the words are hard to get out. An educated citizenship. And that's why they put that in our Constitution. They didn't say for-profit schools. They didn't say private schools. It says it specifically in there, public schools. And so that's why I say again, this is the civil rights fight of our time. Are we going to take what was projected by the Legislative Budget Board, and we're going to have a little bit of church and we're going to have a little bit of school at the same time. I don't know if that's appropriate, but we're going to do it. The Legislative Budget Board comes up with what the fiscal note, what's the cost of a bill, right? What is it going to cost you guys to implement this? And they have said that by the end of the decade, the ESAs, the voucher, the bill that's the most important for the governor of our state, not water infrastructure, not making sure we don't have toll roads everywhere. I need a toll voucher is what I need. Right? Not making sure kids have lunch in the summertime. The most important bill that's going to cost almost $10 billion by the end of this decade is to give your money to unaccountable for-profit schools in this state. Schools that we have no idea what they're teaching. We can't go in there. We can't ask, right? There are creating some strings with this new House Bill 3 bill, but even that is getting pushed back from guess who? The private schools and the home schools. The other part that I have a problem with the bill, and then I'll move on to how we can have an impact on our democracy, is that the bill in question actually creates 5 specific vendors in our state that will help citizens access the vouchers and the coupons. It's only those 5 vendors that will then take a fee for their services, right? So that's concerning when you're talking about just trying to educate 5.5 million kids, making sure they can read, making sure they can write, making sure they know where Romania is on the map, right? Making sure teachers have Crayola crayons in the classrooms. And God forbid they be the ones with all the different skin colors on them. You know what I'm talking about? Those are the number one, sometimes most requested Crayola crayons from our teachers, right? But God forbid we ban diversity, equity, and inclusion in this state. I mean, that's where we're at. That's where we're at. Okay, I'm going to move on. So let's take a moment to break down the structure of the Texas legislature. Our legislative body is bicameral, meaning we have a House of Representatives and a state Senate, just like they do in Congress. There are 150 members of the Texas House. Currently, we have 62 Democrats and 88 Republicans. In order to pass a bill, in order to elect a speaker, you need 76 votes, a simple majority. In order to pass a constitutional amendment, something that goes before you, that gets put on the ballot to get voted on, you need 100 representatives, 2/3 of the body. So everybody is intended to have a voice in the Texas legislature. But the process of passing a bill, how many of y'all saw Schoolhouse Rock? Of how a bill becomes a law. They need to do one before how a bill becomes a law, like the prequel, kind of like Star Wars, where it's like how the idea becomes a bill, right? Because there's a lot of great ideas, and that then has to go through the drafting process. We have attorneys, right, and legislative counsel that help us turn our ideas into a bill that then gets adopted to the Constitution that then we don't read. Only lawyers and judges read, right? But all of that, I say that all to say that before, is a bill and then it gets signed by the governor, it's a staff, an office like mine, sitting around, making sure we get our bills in by filing deadline. Friday was our filing deadline, our 60-day mark, right? We can't file any more bills now. My office filed 76 bills, so wish them luck. We got a lot of work to do. But we're filing bills around public education, public health care, public transit, right? Making sure Texans are healthy, they can get to work, right? Doesn't cost them an arm and a leg. They can afford their home insurance, the health care, right? That is what the foundation of the Texas Miracle is all about. We are only in the Texas legislature for 140 days every 2 years. It's not a lot of time to do a lot of work. Sometimes we get it wrong, and that has devastating consequences to the citizens of Texas, because then we got to sit around for another 1.5 years for us to get back down to Austin. right? And we've seen the consequences of our mistakes. We've seen what have happened to the healthcare system. We've seen what have happened to the lives of women and children that have been impacted by bad bills. And most recently, we have seen politicians roll back some of the choices that they've made, saying that, you know what, I might have screwed this one up. They'll never say they screwed it up. It just says clarifying language. That's what we call that. I'm going to get in trouble. Okay. So, what can we do to protect democracy? That's what I'm here to talk about. So here are some key actions that it says in my notes we can take together. I'm going to change it to we are going to take together. How's that sound? Yes. Okay? So here are some key things we are going to do together. First, we're going to educate ourselves in our communities. Guess what? Congratulations, y'all done first step. We're here together. Look at that. It's easy peasy, right? Knowledge is the foundation of our democracy. When we understand the legislative process, when we understand the issues, we empower ourselves and we can truly advocate for change. Vouchers is one example of that. Access to the ballot box is another important thing that we all need to advocate for, because if you ain't voting, it's the bottom of the ballot is closer to your front door. I was shaking hands earlier and someone said, you came and knocked on my door. Came and knocked on your door. Yeah. And so that matters. When I won in 2022, no one thought that I was going to win but Mama and God. Right? My Republican opponent had $4 million. I had like 500,000, but I knocked over 10,000 doors myself. My campaign, 64,000 doors. Last campaign cycle, we knocked 84,000 doors, because that's what representation really is supposed to be about. I knock on your door, I say, hey, I'm Mihaela, I'd love to be your state rep. What's important to you, right? Is it public education? Is it public transit? Is it Medicaid expansion, right? And so that's why when I go down to Austin, I know what my constituents want. I'm not intimidated when Governor Abbott calls me into a closed door meeting and says, hey, will you vote for vouchers? What's your number one legislative priority? And I'm like, I ain't voting for vouchers. I'll lose my next election because my constituents don't want it, right? My constituents don't want that. So you can tell me all the things that you want to tell me, but it's not going to matter because I'm here to represent them, the 200,000 people that elected me. You don't poll too well in my district, sir. I'm really going to get in trouble. This is what happens when they send me up with no notes. Okay, so the first is we educate ourselves. We educate our communities. We understand the legislative process. We know it gets filed. It has to go through committee hearing. That committee in public ed stayed up till 5:30 in the morning hearing y'all's testimony. Over 500 people showed up at their Texas Capitol to say no to Greg Abbott's vouchers, right? And so that is what we're talking about here. Majority of people showed up. 2, we have to participate. That means voting in every election. That means educating yourself. House District 70 has one of the highest voter turnouts in the state of Texas. They're one of the most educated districts in the state of Texas. They know that the bottom of the ballot is closer to your front door. They know how to get a hold of their people on that ballot, how to ask questions, how to show up at their town halls, right? People are canceling their town halls. I am having a town hall in 2 weeks. Please check out my social media. We'd love to have you guys all. It's online because I'll be in Austin, but we're having a town hall. So contact your state reps, contact your elected officials, write letters, invite them to come speak, right? That's how we get active. That's how we, number 3, foster dialogue and understanding. Some of the most important things that you said today was about building bridges and understanding the perspectives of the people on the other side of the aisle. And we might not agree on everything, but let's try to find some things that we agree on, like public education, right? Our kids, right? And that's where I have found to be some of the most rewarding experiences that I've had in the Texas legislature, is building those bipartisan relationships with people I never thought in a million years would ever be my friend, let alone vote for one of my bills, you know? And there I was, you know, with someone, I don't know, some conservative. And I had a bill with Bob Hall last session, so I'll just put it like that, you know? And it's focusing on your constituencies, focusing on the things that matter, the issues at hand. And I think that's how the Texas legislature works best, is reaching across the aisle, reaching down to someone that needs help, and seeking to find different perspectives and understanding. We're not always going to agree, but we can at least attempt to be friends in the friendly state of all places. Okay, and finally, and probably the most important, hold your leadership accountable. Hold your leadership accountable. A lot of times people say that the most important elections are primary elections in the state of Texas. They say that because we live in a state where only 3 seats in the Texas House are competitive. And I think sometimes people forget that they can hold every state representative accountable, whether that state representative is in a 60-plus Republican district or a 60-plus Democratic district. Accountability is showing up, demanding to have your voice heard, and reminding your representatives that they work for you. I never forget that, because I grew up in an environment where my grandparents and parents always told me about the horrors of what communism looked like and what fascism looked like and what really not having a voice. And so it's the honor of my life to speak for 200,000 people. I really enjoy it. But I think sometimes people forget who their boss is, and that's you guys. So I say that all to say that it is our duty as citizens to ensure that our elected officials uphold our values that we cherish. This includes attending community meetings, advocating for transparency, and demanding that our representatives act in the best interests of their constituents. So once again, I say, as we gather in this sacred space, let us remember that democracy is not just a political system. It is a reflection of our values, our beliefs, and our commitment to one another. So in closing, I encourage all of you to reflect on your roles in protecting democracy. Are we going to do, number 1, education? Are we going to do participation? Are we going to demand dialogue? Or are we going to hold our state representatives accountable? We all have a part to play. For me, it was running for office. It was spending 140 days in Austin. Can you put me on the prayer thing for that? I need that. For you, it might look different, right? But together we can nurture a democracy that reflects the highest ideals and serves all Texans. So thank you for your time. Thank you for inviting me, for your passion. Thank you all for your commitment. I know that some of you guys are going to Activist Lobby Day tomorrow, or I forgot what it's called. Someone said they're going to be at the Capitol tomorrow. You know, that's the type of stuff that we need. That now is not the time to give up. Now is the time to get to work, okay? So, like I said, thank you so much for inviting me. I'm ready to get to work. And before I leave, I have some calendars out there for you guys. I have some newsletters out there for you guys, for y'all to know how to get a hold of me, how to hold me accountable, how to put my staff to work. They need to get to work. And please follow us on all of our social medias. I'm literally like on everything from Blue Sky to Twitter, or X, formerly known as Twitter, to TikToking. I'm doing everything. So Plesa for Texas is our social media handles. Follow our newsletter, and I look forward to making Texas a better place for you, with you guys. For a better Texas, y'all.
We are democracy. Unruly, unfinished, unrelenting people of rebellious joy taking to the streets, underground resilience, resisting compliance, the pleasure of activism organizing into simple hope. We are democracy. People of principles taking on principalities, witnessing the worth of those called unworthy, justice just now gaining ground, integrity of interdependent existence extending, living democracy in the heads, hands, and hearts. We know that democracy can die, ossify, brittle byproducts of bygone idealists, plotting politicians pirating votes, corporations cannibalizing our care for the world. Look, it can wither, distend, and come to an end. Democracy. Today, we will love you alive, make you ours, make you thrive, and vote as though our hope is on the line, because it is. There are those who want you to give up hope. Despair and cynicism fuel their movements. We must always, in the words of Jesse Jackson, keep hope alive. Let it be so.